The barking began like a distant knock on a half-remembered dream, faint, rhythmic, impossible to ignore. At first, I thought it was the neighbor's dog again. Old Mr. Delroy owned a bulldog that barked at shadows, leaves, the moon, anything that dared to exist. So when the sound pierced through the thin walls of my small rental house in Greenville, Ohio, I rolled over in bed and pulled the blanket tighter, but the barking didn't fade. It grew sharper, urgent, almost pleading. I checked my phone. 12:47 a.m. Who lets their dog out at this hour? I muttered. Another series of barks, this time right against my porch, too close, too intentional. I sighed, pushed myself out of bed and shuffled to the living room. The floorboards creaked under my feet, the old heater hummed in the corner, and a strip of cold air snuck through the bottom of the front door. Winter was settling in early that year, the kind of cold that made everything feel brittle. When I reached the door, I hesitated. Something felt wrong. The barking wasn't angry, it wasn't random. It sounded like someone pounding on my door, desperately calling for help. Pulling the curtain aside, I finally saw him. A German shepherd, tall, muscular, and trembling from exhaustion. His fur was matted with mud, his paws scraped raw, and one side of his face carried a fresh cut as if he had pushed through thorns or barbed wire. His breath formed white clouds in the freezing air, chest rising fast as though he had been running for miles. But it was his eyes that froze me. Wide, intense, intelligent, not wild like a stray's, not stubborn like a spoiled house pet's. These were the eyes of a dog carrying a message. Before I could unlock the door, he barked again, louder, sharper. A command, a warning. Then I noticed something else. A thick collar around his neck. Not a regular collar, but a tracking collar, the kind law enforcement or search and rescue teams use. Except this one was snapped in half, wires poking out like broken veins. "What happened to you?" I whispered. The dog stepped back, revealing something on the wooden porch floor that made my heart lurch. A streak of dark red, not a small drop, a smeared line. Fresh blood. It ran from the dog's fur, down the porch step, and trailed off into the darkness beyond my yard. Suddenly, the barking made sense. He wasn't warning me about him, he was warning me about something, or someone else. I grabbed the door handle but stopped. My hand trembled. 1,000 thoughts stormed my mind. What if he was dangerous? What if this was some kind of trap? What if something or someone was out there in the dark? But then the shepherd did something no wild dog would do. He stepped forward and gently nudged my leg with his nose. Not aggressively, but the way a trained dog asks permission, or reassurance, or help. He barked once sharply, then turned his head toward the end of the driveway, ears perked, muscles tense. He wanted me to follow. "Okay, buddy," I whispered, pulling on my coat with shaking hands. "Show me." The moment I stepped outside, icy wind stung my face. The shepherd trotted ahead a few steps, then looked back at me, checking if I was behind him. The blood trail glistened faintly under the porch light, spreading into the darkness like a path carved by fear. I followed him past my mailbox, past the quiet houses sleeping under the winter sky, past the old oak tree that always creaked at night. My breath came out shaky, my heart pounding in my ears. I didn't know where he was taking me. I didn't know what waited in the shadows. All I knew was this. That dog had spent the entire night barking at my door. He wasn't here by accident, and whatever he wanted me to see, he believed only I could help. As I stepped deeper into the cold, heavy darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that dawn would bring a truth I wasn't ready to face. The farther we walked, the more the night changed. The air felt heavier, colder, as if the darkness itself had weight. The streetlights behind us grew dimmer until they disappeared completely, swallowed by the long stretch of woods that lined the east side of Greenville. It wasn't a forest, just a neglected patch of trees that locals rarely visited after sunset. Kids called it Ravenwood Strip, mostly because of the huge blackbirds that perched there at dawn like sentinels of bad omens, and the German shepherd was heading straight toward it. "Hey, wait," I whispered, but my voice barely carried. He didn't speed up. He didn't slow down. He simply stopped every 20 feet, turned his head, checked if I was still coming, then continued. That pattern alone told me he'd been trained, disciplined, methodical, conditioned to guide humans. But guide me to what? The wind rustled the dried leaves, scattering them across the dirt trail like faint whispers. My boots crunched on the frozen ground. Each step deepened the unease curling in my stomach. Halfway into the woods, the shepherd suddenly froze. Not like a dog noticing a squirrel or a random movement. He stiffened, muscles locked. Tail horizontal, ears pointed perfectly forward. Something had triggered him. I stopped too, pulse thudding in my throat. "What is it, boy?" He didn't look at me. He took 3 deliberate steps forward, nose lifted, sniffing the air. The tension around him tightened like rope. My fingers clenched unconsciously around the flashlight on my phone. A soft metallic clink echoed. Ahead, faint, distant, but unmistakable, it wasn't the sound of branches, not an animal, a chain or a metal object, hitting something hollow. The shepherd growled, a low, controlled vibration that rippled through the cold air. I pointed my flashlight forward, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. At first I saw nothing but tangled bushes and bare trees, but then my light caught the ground. More blood. Not droplets, a dragged pattern, a long streak that curved deeper into the woods. I swallowed hard. My breath misted in front of me. "Who are you trying to show me?" I whispered. The shepherd let out a short, urgent bark, then stepped forward again, following the blood trail. Every instinct screamed that I should turn back, that this was something for the police. Not a random guy who barely knew how to fix his own porch light, but the dog wasn't just leading me, he needed me. Why? Why my house? Why my door? Why all night? There had to be a reason. We walked another 100 yards before the trees began to thin again, revealing the silhouette of a clearing. I could see the faint outline of something metallic. Abandoned equipment, maybe, from the old days when this area was used for training military dogs. Greenville once had a K9 unit that was nationally recognized, but the facility was closed years ago after a funding scandal. My stomach dropped. The German shepherd, was he from that unit? He stepped into the clearing first, his body low, scanning every direction. I followed slowly. My flashlight revealed old rusted cages, broken posts, rotting wooden platforms aimed at the ghosts of a once busy training yard. And then I saw it. A shape. On the ground. Motionless. My breath hitched. It was a man. Face down. One arm twisted unnaturally, the other covered in blood. His clothes were torn, his boots caked in mud. A heavy chain dangled from his belt, broken on one end. The metallic clink I heard earlier echoed again as the loose part tapped against a stone. I froze. The shepherd didn't. He walked straight to the man, sniffed him once, then looked at me and barked, a sharp, demanding bark. "Is he alive?" I whispered, kneeling down. My hands trembled as I reached for the man's neck, searching for a pulse. My fingers pressed against cold skin, then a faint throb. Weak. But there. Oh my God. I quickly rolled the man slightly to check his breathing, and only then did I see his face and I gasped. I knew him. Every person in Greenville knew him. Officer Caleb Murdoch. K9 handler. Missing for 2 days. Newspapers said he vanished during a routine search operation on the outskirts of town. They sent teams to look for him. They found nothing, but the one who never stopped searching was his dog. A trained German shepherd, a service animal with unmatched loyalty. The dog who had barked outside my door all night because his partner was dying in the woods, and he needed someone, anyone, to follow him. But something still didn't make sense. If the dog found help, why didn't he go to another house? Why mine? I opened my mouth to ask that impossible question. Then my flashlight beam shifted and froze on something half hidden behind a fallen log. A second trail of blood, fresher, darker, leading deeper into the trees. The dog's ears perked instantly. He looked at it, then looked at me. His eyes burned with meaning. Officer, Murdoch wasn't the only one out here. Someone else was bleeding. Someone else was alive, and the shepherd needed me to follow that second trail next. As the wind picked up and the sky began to lighten just barely with the first hint of dawn, a chilling realization pressed into my mind. The dog hadn't just saved his partner. He might have saved much more. Dawn was still a whisper behind the trees when everything inside that clearing shifted. The cold, the silence, even the way the shadows stretched over the frost-bitten ground. The German shepherd stood beside Officer Murdoch's unconscious body, breathing hard, eyes fixed on me as if telling me, "We're not done. Not even close." And then he looked toward the second trail of blood, the fresher one, the darker one, the one leading deeper into the woods. A shiver ran all the way down my spine, not from the cold, but from the heavy, crawling realization that this night held more than one victim, or worse, more than one attacker. I scanned the clearing again. Broken cages, rusted gates, torn branches, dirt disturbed as if something or someone had been dragged violently through the brush. I whispered, "How long were you guarding him alone?" The shepherd didn't blink, didn't whine, didn't beg. He simply turned toward the second trail of blood, lowered his body and waited for me to move. So I did. Even though every rational thought screamed at me to call for help first, I followed him. Just a few steps in, I paused and turned back to Officer Murdoch. His breathing was shallow but steady. Leaving him alone made my stomach twist, yet the dog clearly believed the second trail was urgent, maybe even more dangerous. I pulled out my phone to call 911, but there was no signal that deep in the woods. The screen showed only red bars and a blank mocking "no service." "Great," I muttered. "So we're blind, lost, and probably walking straight into something awful." The shepherd trotted ahead, not impatiently, but with the confidence of someone who had been tracking this path for hours, maybe all night. The blood trail led us along a narrow path squeezed between thick bushes and low branches. Sharp thorns scraped my jacket and brushed against my face. The air smelled metallic, damp, almost suffocating. Every 20 or 30 feet, the shepherd stopped. He sniffed the ground, listened, watched. His discipline was unnerving. Every movement precise, polished, trained. That's when another detail hit me. His torn tracking collar, the snapped wire, the mud and cuts, the frantic barking outside my door. Whatever happened tonight, this wasn't a simple rescue mission. This was an escape. We reached a steep slope where the ground dipped sharply, almost forming a ravine. The shepherd descended first, agile and sure-footed. I followed less gracefully, slipping and grabbing roots for support. At the bottom, the scene widened into another clearing, smaller, darker, enclosed by broken fencing. My light swept across it and froze. A set of footprints, not old ones, not blurred ones, fresh, deep, heavy. 2 pairs, one belonged to Officer Murdoch, the other, someone with a larger shoe size dragging their left foot, leaving a crooked impression every few steps. Blood speckles covered the ground. My pulse hammered. Was someone chasing him? The shepherd growled softly, not loud enough to alert anyone. Just a warning for me. Be careful. We pushed forward, following the footprints until they reached an overturned metal crate. Something lay beneath it, a torn piece of fabric caught on the edge. I knelt and lifted it with trembling fingers. It was a sleeve, dark, mud-stained, but on the corner. I saw something that turned my stomach cold. A stitched patch, half-ripped, but still readable. GRTF, Greenville Regional Task Force. A badge. A law enforcement insignia. Someone from the task force had been here, had bled here, or they were still bleeding somewhere ahead. The dog nudged me again. Harder this time. He started moving faster, nose skimming the ground, tail tense and straight. His posture changed entirely, no longer guiding me with caution but moving with urgency. He knew we were close. Within minutes, the dense trees gave way to a narrow stream. The water was dark, moving sluggishly under a thin layer of frost. And there, on the slippery stones beside it, was something that twisted my insides. A handprint, bloody large, pressed into the rock in panic. And beside it, partially submerged in the icy water, lay a handcuff. Only one half of the cuff was closed. The chain connecting both cuffs had been cut. Cleanly, not broken, cut. I swallowed so hard it hurt. This wasn't a chase. This was a capture. The shepherd barked once, short, sharp, then turned left, not along the trail, not toward the stream, but toward a large fallen oak log. He circled it once, then halted on the opposite side. His body leaned forward, his ears pointed straight. His chest rose and fell faster. I moved slowly, flashlight trembling in my hand. Then I saw her, a woman, maybe mid-30s, curled on her side, shivering violently. Her wrists raw where the cut handcuff still dangled. Her breath came in weak, broken gasps. Her jeans were torn, her jacket missing, her feet bare, and her face I recognized instantly. Detective Laura Kensington, the same detective who led the search for Officer Murdoch, the same detective who disappeared yesterday afternoon during the investigation, the same detective the news claimed was likely abducted. She lay there half-conscious, whispering something I couldn't hear. I rushed toward her. Detective? Detective Kensington? Can you hear me? Her cracked lips barely moved. Dog, she breathed. The dog, he saved. Her voice collapsed into a cough. I hesitated for a second, glancing at the shepherd. He wasn't scared. He wasn't barking. He wasn't frantic. He was standing guard, protecting her just as he had protected Officer Murdoch. But then a sound sliced through the silence, a branch, snapping, not by accident, not by wind, close, too close. The shepherd spun toward the trees, teeth bared, growling deep and low. Every hair on his back stood straight. Someone was here, someone who had tried to kill Murdoch, someone who had handcuffed and beaten Kensington, someone who had cut the chain and chased the dog through the woods. And dawn was rising, just enough for me to see a silhouette moving between the trees, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket with reflective lettering, Gartef. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. The silhouette wasn't walking like a rescuer. He was stalking, slow, silent, predatory. I stepped in front of Kensington on instinct. The shepherd moved in front of me. His growl deepened, shaking the cold air. And in that split second, I understood. This wasn't a rescue operation. This wasn't a lost officer incident. This was a betrayal. One of their own had turned on them. And the only reason I was still alive was because a German shepherd chose my house, my door, my porch, as the one place he believed someone would listen. The woods were no longer silent. They were holding their breath. A pale strip of dawnlight crept between the branches, revealing the silhouette of the man slowly emerging from the trees. His boots pressed into the frost-covered leaves with controlled precision. Not a stumble, not a sound wasted. This wasn't a man lost in the woods. This was a man hunting, and every instinct in me screamed one truth. He wasn't coming here to help the wounded detective lying behind me. He wasn't looking for the unconscious officer we had left in the clearing. He was coming for the dog. The German shepherd's body lowered, every muscle pulled tight like a drawn bowstring. His growl deepened into a spine-vibrating rumble that no ordinary dog could produce. This was the growl of a trained canine making a stand. Easy, boy, I whispered, though my voice cracked with fear. The man stepped closer. His jacket read GRTF, the Greenville Regional Task Force emblem sewn across the chest. But something about it felt wrong. The letters weren't centered. The stitching was loose. The badge wasn't the polished silver type used by the task force. It looked like a cheap reproduction sewn on fast, as if someone needed to look official on short notice. The man finally stopped about 15 feet away, enough for me to see his face. A square jaw, a crooked nose that had been broken at some point. Cold, watchful eyes that revealed no surprise at finding us. He knew exactly what and who would be here. "Step back from the dog," he said in a low, steady voice. "He's dangerous." The shepherd's snarl sharpened. I swallowed hard. "He saved 2 officers tonight." The man didn't even blink. "He also attacked one." "What?" My chest tightened. "That's not true." "Move," he repeated. His tone didn't rise, it didn't threaten. It was calm, too calm, which made it far more terrifying. He reached into his jacket, and for a split second I thought he was going for a gun. But he pulled out something else. Metal rod, sleek black with a faint electrical buzz vibrating in the cold air. High voltage canine control. Prod illegal banned for years. Painful. Enough to cripple a trained police. The shepherd recognized it instantly. His growl transformed into a bark. Explosive, furious, protective. He stepped forward, placing himself fully between me and the man. The stranger tilted his head, almost amused. Still loyal. Even after last night. Last night. Something heavy twisted in my stomach. Had this man hurt him? Had he broken the tracker collar? Had he chased the dog through miles of woods? The shepherd barked again. One sharp, furious sound, and the man smirked. "You should have stayed dead," he said to the dog. My breath stopped. Dead. Detective Kensington, still weak and half-conscious behind me, suddenly stirred. Her voice trembled with effort as she forced out a whisper. "Don't." "Trust him, please." The man heard her. His eyes sharpened, then he stepped forward. That tiny shift broke the fragile stillness. The shepherd lunged. He didn't hesitate, didn't wait for me to act, didn't think of his own safety. He launched himself with the full weight of a trained canine, jaws aimed for the man's wrist, the one holding the prod. But the man was fast, almost too fast. He dodged sideways, swung the rod, and a lightning crack of electricity sliced through the air. The shepherd yelped, a sound so sharp it stabbed through my chest. But he didn't fall. He recovered midair, twisted, hit the ground, and skidded backward. "Teeth bared. Smart dog," the man muttered, "but not smart enough." He stepped forward again, raising the prod, and I reacted without thinking. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a fallen branch, thick and heavy, and swung it as hard as I could at his arm. The prod flew out of his hand and landed several feet away in the dirt. The man jerked his head toward me, eyes filled with sudden icy rage. "You should have stayed inside your house," he said. I stepped back instinctively. "You're hurting people." "They got in the way," he said simply. Then he smiled, a thin, humorless smile. You should have seen Murdoch's face when he realized who I was working with. My skin went cold. "Working with? Not alone?" The shepherd barked furiously, snapping at the air, trying to decide whether to attack again or stay close to me and the injured detective. The man's smile faded. He wasn't supposed to escape. He continued calmly, as if discussing paperwork. Neither was she. He shrugged toward Detective Kensington. "Loose ends. And the dog?" I demanded. "What did he do?" The man's expression hardened. He saw everything. The woods felt suddenly smaller. The trees leaned closer. The air thickened. This man had killed someone, maybe multiple someones. He had kidnapped 2 officers. He had chased a dog through the night. And now he wanted to finish what he started. He took a step toward me. The shepherd moved faster. This time the dog didn't aim for the wrist, aimed for the legs, the weak point of someone standing on uneven ground. He hit the man full force, knocking him to one knee. The man cursed, grabbing the dog's collar, yanking hard, twisting cruelly. The shepherd whimpered but clamped his jaws harder onto the man's thigh. The moment stretched into a violent blur. Growls, grunts, the crunch of leaves, the struggle of 2 bodies locked in a deadly conflict. I rushed toward them again, but the detective croaked weakly behind me. "Stop. It's not just him," I froze. "What do you mean?" "There are 2, she whispered. 2 men plotting, planning something bigger. My blood turned to ice. 2? Before I could ask anything else, a second voice rose behind me, calm, deep, cold. "Put the stick down." I spun around. Another silhouette stepped from behind a cluster of trees, bulkier, taller, wearing the same counterfeit task force jacket. He pointed, a gun at my chest. The shepherd, hearing the new threat, released the first man and turned sharply, but he was too far away to reach me in time. Both men were now standing, one bleeding from the leg, one holding a gun, both staring at me like I was the last obstacle in their way. "Step away from the detective," the gunman said, "and definitely away from the dog." My breath came fast and shallow. The shepherd growled, inching closer. The first man limped forward, wiping blood from his thigh. The second one smirked. "You should have ignored the barking," he said. "Would have saved us all some time." And that's when I realized everything tonight. The broken cages, the blood trails, the kidnapping, the betrayal, the chase, the dog choosing my porch. None of it was random. These men weren't just eliminating witnesses. They were covering up something catastrophic. And in the growing dawn light, surrounded by trees with a wounded detective behind me and a loyal shepherd standing between me and death, I finally understood the terrifying truth. Hadn't been pulled into a rescue. I had been pulled into a conspiracy, one that wasn't over yet. The dawn light strengthened, stretching across the woods like pale fingers of warning. The sky turned a muted steel blue, just bright enough for me to see the faces of the two men clearly now. Faces I had only ever seen on news articles, brief TV interviews, and community meetings. Knew them, and the realization hit like a punch to the gut. Sergeant Alan Cross, standing with the gun aimed at my chest. Decorated. Respected. The man who led the Greenville Regional Task Force for nearly a decade, a familiar face at charity events, school safety assemblies, and city fundraisers. And next to him, Detective Ryan Cole, limping, bleeding where the shepherd bit him, a veteran investigator, known for solving the unsolvable, the man who once received a commendation for rescuing a kidnapped teenager, both of them, both well-known, both trusted, both now looking at me like I had accidentally wandered into a crime scene I was never meant to survive. My throat tightened. Why are you doing this? Sergeant Cross sighed softly, almost disappointed. Because people get in the way of progress. Progress? Detective Cole snorted. Don't bother Alan, he's just a random civilian dragged into this because of that dog. The shepherd barked, sharply at the word dog, as if insulted. Cross's eyes flicked toward him with a coldness that made me step instinctively. In front of the shepherd. You hurt him last night. I said. Cross didn't deny it. In fact, he smiled. He wouldn't die, he said. Annoying creature. Tenacity like that is rare. Detective Kensington, still half conscious on the ground behind me, whispered, Don't let them take the dog. Cole nudged her with his boot. Quiet. Something in me snapped. You tortured him, I said. You tortured your own canine officer. Cross shrugged casually. Collateral. That word sent rage ripping through me. But before I could react, Cross lifted the gun slightly. Step aside, he said. We'll take her, finish what we started, and nobody has to add your name to this mess. The woods seemed to hold their breath again. Even the birds were silent. What did she find? I asked. Why did you take her? What was she going to expose? Cole's jaw tightened. Cross's smile disappeared. There. It was. The truth. Kensington wasn't just a missing detective. She was the one person who had found the crack in their operation and whatever dark, illegal scheme these men had been hiding under the badge for years, and Officer Murdoch must have discovered it too, which is why he was lying, unconscious in the clearing, which is why they chased him, which is why they tried to kill the shepherd, the only being who saw the whole thing unfold. Cross stepped closer, tightening his grip on the gun. You don't need to know. You just need to move. The shepherd moved before I could. With a deep, rumbling growl that vibrated through my bones, he walked right past me and stood in front of the gun, shielding me with his own body. Cross scoffed. You're not actually going to die for him, are you? The shepherd didn't move, didn't blink, didn't back down. Cole wiped the blood from his pant leg. Just shoot the dog already. We're wasting time. Cross lifted the gun higher. I felt everything inside me collapse into a single primal scream. No. I grabbed the nearest object I could, a fist-sized rock, and hurled it at Cross with everything I had. It struck his arm, not enough to injure, but enough to jolt his aim. The gun fired, a deafening crack ripped through the woods. The shepherd moved like a bullet, throwing himself sideways, the shot grazing his leg instead of hitting his chest. He yelped, stumbled but didn't fall. I rushed forward to grab him, but he shoved me back with his head, forcing me behind him. Even now, injured, protecting me, Cross cursed. I'm done with this. He cocked the gun again. Then, the woods exploded with sound. Not gunfire, not shouting. Barking. Loud. Sharp. Dozens of barks, coming from both sides of the woods, echoing through the trees. Cross froze. Cole spun around in panic. Out of the shadows emerged figures. Men in tactical uniforms, moving silently between the trees, rifles pointed, flashlights mounted on their helmets. Real task force officers, at least 10 of them. And at the front, limping but awake, Officer Caleb Murdoch, alive, conscious, and furious. Drop the weapon, he shouted, voice hoarse but steady. Now. Cross spun toward him, gun still in hand. Cole reached for his waist. 2 red laser dots landed on each of their chests. Don't, Murdoch warned. The shepherd barked once, weak but commanding. then limped toward Murdoch, collapsing slightly onto his front paws. Murdoch dropped to his knees, hand shaking as he grabbed the dog's face. "Good boy. God, buddy, you found help." His voice cracked. Cross looked around at the officers, at the lasers, at the shepherd leaning against his partner, and something inside him broke. He threw the gun down. Cole lifted his hands slowly, expression hollow. 2 officers tackled them both to the ground, cuffing them tightly. Kensington weakly lifted her head, tears gathering in her eyes as 2 medics rushed toward her. "You did it," she whispered to the shepherd. "You saved us." The woods finally exhaled. The birds returned. The wind softened. The dawn spread wider. I knelt beside the shepherd, gently placing a hand on his fur. His breathing was uneven, but his eyes stayed focused on Murdoch. "He barked at my door all night," I said quietly. "He wouldn't leave until I followed him." Murdoch smiled, weak but filled with pride. "He chose you," Murdoch whispered. "He knew you'd listen. He always trusts the right people." The shepherd nudged my hand, his tail giving one exhausted wag. Murdoch looked at me with a sincerity that made my chest tighten. "He saved my life," he said. "He saved hers. And he saved you." The medics lifted Kensington carefully. Officers escorted Cross and Cole away. Radios buzzed with chatter. Emergency sirens approached from the distance, but the shepherd... He just rested his head on Murdoch's lap and closed his eyes slowly, finally allowing himself to relax. I stroked his fur gently. "You're a hero, buddy." Murdoch nodded, voice thick. "His name is Valor. A perfect name." As the sun finally rose above the trees, lighting the woods in gold, I realized that everything had changed. Not because of fate or luck, but because one dog refused to give up. One dog barked all night outside the door of a stranger. One dog saved 3 lives. One dog exposed a conspiracy. One dog named Valor. The paramedics worked quickly, their voices echoing through the trees as dawn finally broke over Greenville. The golden light spilled across the frost-covered ground, across the wounded detective, across the ruins of the abandoned training yard, and finally across the German shepherd lying between Officer Murdoch and me. Valor, the dog who had pulled me from my bed, barked all night, guided me through darkness, saved 2 officers exposed to betrayal, and now lay quietly wounded but dignified, as if finally convinced his mission was complete. But the night wasn't done with us yet. The aftermath in the woods. Murdoch kept one hand on Valor's neck, gently stroking his fur. His other hand trembled uncontrollably, pain, shock, and relief crashing together inside him after almost 48 hours of captivity. "Stay with me, buddy," he whispered, leaning over Valor. "Don't you dare close your eyes." Valor's ears twitched weakly at the sound of his partner's voice, but his breathing remained shallow. 2 medics rushed over with a stretcher, gauze, IVs, and emergency equipment. One knelt beside the dog, examining the bullet graze, the bruises on his ribs, the torn skin around the broken tracker collar. "This dog fought hard," the medic said softly. "He needs immediate care." Murdoch swallowed hard. "He'll make it. He always does." Another medic approached Detective Kensington. She stirred again, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw Valor lying hurt, her lips trembled. He saved me twice," she whispered. "Of all people, a K9. Saved me twice." Valor lifted his head at her voice, giving a soft, ragged whine. His tail thumped weakly against the cold ground. I crouched closer. "They're going to take him to the veterinary emergency center in town. He'll get the best treatment." Murdoch nodded, but didn't look convinced. The truth hung silently in the air. Valor had survived the night by sheer willpower, but he was exhausted, bleeding, and in pain. As the medics lifted Kensington onto a stretcher and secured her, she looked directly at me. "It's a good thing you listened to him," she whispered. "Most people wouldn't." I didn't want to at first, I admitted. But something in his eyes, I knew he needed help. She tried to give a small smile. "Tonight, you followed a dog into the woods, and because of that, you exposed murderers." Her head fell back onto the pillow as the medics carried her toward the waiting vehicles. Murdoch stood with difficulty as they prepared to lift Valor next. But when the medics reached for him, Valor lifted his head and growled softly. refusing to let anyone except Murdoch touch him. "He trusts you," the medic said. "He needs calm handling. Go with him." Murdoch nodded and carefully slid both arms under Valor's body. The dog whimpered in pain but didn't resist. Together they gently placed him onto the stretcher. Valor's eyes searched for me, tired, heavy but aware. I bent down and whispered, "You did it, boy. You got them all home." His eyes blinked slowly. One more wag of the tail, then his head rested back down. At the hospital. The woods faded behind us as I rode with the convoy back into town. Paramedics worked on Murdoch and Kensington in one ambulance, while Valor was transported in another, sirens blaring, lights flashing across the quiet Greenville streets. Word spread fast. By the time we reached Greenville Memorial Hospital, journalists were already gathering outside, cameras flashing as officers carried the wounded inside. Officers Cross and Cole, now cuffed and guarded, were shoved into a separate secure entrance. Inside the emergency wing, chaos blended with urgency. Doctors rushed Kensington into surgery. Nurses wheeled Murdoch to the trauma unit. Veterinary specialists from the Greenville K9 unit sprinted inside carrying equipment, and Valor was gently laid on a large steel examination table in the emergency veterinary, while I stayed outside the glass wall helpless, watching through fogged-up panels as they cleaned his wound, treated his leg, stitched his torn skin, and removed embedded thorns from his face and paws. I didn't know this dog until tonight, yet watching him fight to breathe felt like watching a friend battle for life. An officer approached me, quietly. "You're the civilian who helped?" he asked. "I just followed him," I said. "He did everything." The officer smiled a sad smile. "Valor always did." We stood in silence as the specialists worked. After an agonizing hour, a vet stepped out. "He's stable," she said. "He's a fighter. He survived things most dogs wouldn't. He'll recover, slowly, but fully." My knees felt weak with relief. Murdoch, bandaged but conscious now, limped out of his room and nearly collapsed with emotion when he heard the news. "He made it," he whispered. "My boy, he made it." The truth comes out by midday. The entire city knew what happened. Sergeant Cross and Detective Cole had been under investigation for months, suspected of tampering with evidence, illegal trafficking, and corruption. Kensington discovered their connection to a criminal network. Murdoch overheard a conversation that sealed their fate, so Cross and Cole ambushed him in the woods, intending to stage his disappearance as a training accident. Kensington caught on, arrived early and fought back but was captured. They thought they killed Valor, but he survived and he ran all night until he found the one door that would open. News channels ran the headline, "K9 Valor exposes corrupt officers, saves 2 lives in overnight manhunt." Reporters wanted interviews, city officials wanted statements, but Valor just slept peacefully in his hospital kennel, wrapped in warm blankets, his head resting on his favorite stuffed toy that someone brought from the K9 unit. He earned his rest. Week later, I visited the hospital every day after work. Sometimes I brought treats. Sometimes I just sat near the kennel, reading book pages aloud. His ears always perked up when I approached. One afternoon, Murdoch joined me. His arm was in a sling and stitches lined his forehead. "You became part of our story," he said quietly. "I just followed him." I repeated again. "Not everyone would have," he replied. "Most people hear barking and call animal control. You got out of bed at 1 a.m. and walked into pitch-black woods." "Because of him," I said. Murdoch smiled. "He chooses the right people. He chose his partner. He chose Kensington. And he chose you." Valor lifted his head and rested it on the kennel door, looking between the two of us. "He saved you too," Murdoch added. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. "I guess he did." After a long silence, Murdoch said something that surprised me. "There's talk of retiring him from active duty." I blinked. "What? But he's only 6. He'll walk again, bite again, train again." But tonight broke something inside him. Murdoch sighed. "He'll never stop protecting, but I don't think I want him in another gunfight." I looked at Valor. He looked peaceful, gentle, loyal. What happens to him now?" Murdoch smiled softly. "He'll live with me, of course. But," he paused, examined my face, then added, "he'll visit you too. Every week. You're part of his pack now. My chest tightened with emotion. I knelt before Valor's kennel. "You hear that, boy?" I whispered. "We're family now." His tail tapped the ground twice. Epilogue. 1 month later, winter settled in. Snow dusted the rooftops. Christmas lights blinked from porches. And every Friday at exactly 4 p.m., I heard a familiar sound approaching my house. Tap, tap, tap. The soft thump of paws on my walkway. Valor healthy, strong. A small scar on his leg, another on his cheek. He'd run up to me, tail wagging, lean his head into my chest, and then curl up at my feet while we drank hot chocolate and talked. Or, well, I talked. And he listened. The neighborhood kids adored him. Strangers waved at him. He became a local hero. The dog who saved 2 officers and exposed corruption. But to me, he was simply Valor, the dog who barked at my door all night, the dog who asked for help, the dog who saved my life. One snowy afternoon, as he lay beside me on the porch, Murdoch said, "You know, I think he picked you before he even barked. He could have gone to any house, but he came to yours. Why mine?" I asked. Murdoch shrugged. "Dogs know people. They read souls better than we do." I looked down at Valor. He looked back, eyes warm, steady, understanding. And in that moment, with the winter sun setting behind us, I knew the truth. He didn't come to my house by accident. He came because he trusted me, because he needed someone who would listen, and because sometimes the greatest heroes wear fur, bleed quietly, and stand guard when the world is asleep. Valor nudged my hand gently. I scratched behind his ear and whispered, "Thank you." He rested his head on my lap, peaceful and safe. And for the first time since that terrifying night, the woods behind our town felt quiet again. No more secrets, no more danger, only the soft breath of a dog who refused to give up. The dog who barked outside my door all night, and at dawn saved all of us.